and overcoming adversity. So let's respect the game and get out and support your local school. You'll be amazed of all the good things you see happening at Ohio schools.
This message brought to you by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the OHSAA Radio Network.
SportsFix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The SportsFix. Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo, join the herd. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, home of the low price tire guarantee. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Plagans, the voice of the Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Yeah, you know what it is. Brown and orange, brown and orange, brown and orange, brown and orange. Yeah, you know what it is. Brown and orange, brown and orange, brown and orange, brown and orange. Yeah, you know what it is. Everything I do for this.
Man, speaking of Doug Plagans, man, they're already getting them schedules out. Monsters training camp is getting ready to kick off, man. And Dougie gets like 3 weeks off from the Arena Bowl, and then we'll be previewing a Monsters season before we even get rolling here, man. As it's already that time. Winter sports coming around, guys. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. J-Rock back with you here as we roll on deep into hour 2 of the show. Ryan Ruiz from The Inscriber getting ready to join us in a moment with the 3 Dawg Bones to a Cleveland Browns victory. He looks at the Browns and the 3 things that they absolutely have to do to have a chance to win their week's football game. This week, of course, the opponent, the Ravens. Thanks again, Jeff Gorman, previous segment for the scouting report on the Ravens. And, man, we got Jeff Gorman, saw LG in the chat room. The momentum building. A lot of people seem to think the Browns can pull this one off. There's a lot of variables, but this is definitely not a non-winnable opportunity. Let's see if we can go clean slate for the panel with Ryan Ruiz and see where he's at with the prediction. You guys can't call. You can keep the conversation going. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Going to the phones. Ryan Ruiz from The Inscriber, beat writer for the Browns. Welcome back in to the Sports Fix.
J-Rock, good afternoon. How we doing?
What's up, man? How you doing today?
J-Rock, I'm riding the high still from Sunday. I got the orange Kool-Aid pouring out of my brains. It feels good. I'll tell you what, it was a great game.
No, it was.
You know, talking about Jonathan Knight, I don't think it's like a Butch Davis team. I think if this was a Butch Davis team or a team like we've seen in the past, there's a key stat that nobody realizes to end that game. The Browns had all 3 timeouts during that final drive. How many times have we seen a Browns team have only 2 timeouts or burn a timeout to too many men on the field? Or, you know, I think it was a well coached game, J-Rock.
I agree with you. No, what he meant was, you know, as far as the aspect of the adjustment, because I know what he meant, where he was going with that, and that's one thing that I think is different. Is I do agree with the old expression that halftime adjustments are overrated in some aspects, meaning you don't go to halftime and just change everything that you've been working on all week. But there's definitely better coaches than others, and for the longest time, we've watched our teams, the Browns, go in to the half and play worse. A lot of times they're the better team in the first half of these games, and the teams get out-coached at halftime, and the teams end up losing in the second half. So from that aspect, that's what he was comparing it to. I do agree with that part, and I do think that's the difference. But regardless, a big win last week, like you said, and now they follow it up here. Here's a chance to show people whether or not you can do it 2 weeks in a row. Show people how you show up the week after a win here. And I think this is a bigger test for the Browns, I said it earlier, than last week, because last week everybody wrote you off except me and thought you didn't have a chance to do it. And this week, hey, and there were other people, but I'm just having some fun with that. This week now, more people are kind of like, hey, what do the Browns got going on? Hey, are the Browns worth paying attention to over here? So now when people are looking at you, let's see which Browns team shows up.
Yeah, they're drawing attention, which is a good thing. And I didn't pick the Browns last week. I picked the Saints, and I picked them because of the fact that they have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I saw another game where I saw heart and resilience and never give up attitude, and it's just something I haven't seen in years. And it carried over from that Steelers second half. So we'll see. I mean, you're right. All eyes are on the Browns. For picking up followers and for keeping followers, but this is a huge game. This is an AFC. We called it last year, J-Rock. We called it a slobber knocker game. So I think the Browns do have a chance, and I'll let you know my opinion at the end here.
Absolutely. So let's get into it, though. What do they need to do to make this thing happen? You call them the Dawg Bones. We got 3 of them every week. So let's start with number 1. What's the first thing on the table, the must-do? What's your 3 Dawg Bones for a Cleveland Browns victory against the old Browns here at the stadium?
All right, J-Rock. Jeff Gorman did an awesome job with the Baltimore Ravens scouting report. One thing he forgot to mention was that in the 2 divisional games that the Ravens have played, they have not allowed their opponent in the red zone. Dawg bone number 1 is we got to find the red zone. Through 2 games, both against the Steelers and the Bengals, the Ravens have not allowed their opponent in the red zone. I think that's a pretty impressive stat through 8 quarters. Baltimore last week played with a physical presence, and I believe they manhandled the Steelers. The Cleveland offense must get deep into enemy territory on Sunday. Big plays don't come for the Browns. I mean, I can recall one big play, and that was that Jordan Cameron play for 47, 50 yards, somewhere around there in that Pittsburgh game. Other than that, I don't recall any big plays. So it's going to have to be the identity that the Browns have formed, which is this downhill running attack with their rookie backs. The Browns are 7th in rushing in the league. They're averaging over 150 yards a game. But they're going to find the red zone. I think it's going to be these short intermediate passes that we've been seeing, plus strong running. The Browns have scored 3 touchdowns on the ground this season. Why is that important? Because once they get in the red zone, if they have a chance to score on Baltimore, I think it's going to be on the ground, not through the air. So if and when the Browns do find the red zone, running the football is probably the best option. The Browns need to produce points in the red zone. Baltimore has not allowed their opponent in the red zone this year. So Dawg bone number 1 is find the red zone.
Absolutely. That was a stat, too, that I had circled here heading into the game. One of the things I was looking at was the fact that Baltimore has not allowed a team to score in the red zone. Meanwhile, all of the Browns' touchdowns offensively have come in the red zone. So that's kind of a, force meets object kind of deal there. Which one's going to give? One of those will have to give one way or the other.
Exactly, J-Rock. Dawg bone number 2, I know it's not Throwback Thursday, but I'm going to pretend it's Throwback Friday, because if you remember 1 year ago when the Browns defeated the Baltimore Ravens in Week 9, I used this dawg bone, and it stays true today. Dawg bone number 2 is Fluster Flacco. I can back it up with against the Cincinnati Bengals. Flacco dinked and dunked in Week 1. It was all short passes. He's got a new favorite target that we all know and love, Steve Smith Sr. now. And in that first half of the game, I watched that whole game, Flacco threw the ball only twice over 12 yards. Flacco is a tall quarterback with limited mobility. The Bengals brought the heat on Flacco that day, and he was forced to get rid of the ball quick on short passes for minimum gains. So why is that? The Bengals also sacked Flacco 3 times that day, with 2 of them coming on the Ravens' final possession. Cincinnati also forced a Flacco interception and dramatic pressure. Now the throwback. We'll go back to last year's game against the Browns. I know the defense has different pieces, but the concept's still the same. Flustering Flacco, it has to do with last year the Browns sacked Flacco 5 times with an offense nowhere near as good as last season's. I'm sorry, last season's is nowhere near as good as our offense this season. The Browns took a commanding 21-10 lead into the third quarter, and they did that by flustering Flacco. Former defensive coordinator Ray Horton, who we both liked, brought a lot of pressure and dialed up all kinds of blitzes from linebacker stunts to cornerback pressures off the edge. So how the Browns are going to beat the Ravens again this year is just the overrated Flacco. And I see that because Flacco doesn't do anything special for me. He had his great Super Bowl run, but he didn't do anything last year. And I've just never been a fan of Flacco. But believe it or not, like I said, this was a huge key that I pointed out last year, and it stays true this year. Dawg Bone number 2 is Fluster Flacco.
Absolutely. And, playing along with that, we talked about throughout the show last year's Ravens team, some of the struggles. Last year, they lost 6 of their 8 road games, including, as we know, Cleveland, as you just mentioned there. First time they had lost in Cleveland since 2007. So, while people like to point out, you can point out numbers and statistics and all of that stuff. At the end of the day, the last year was a step in the right direction for the Browns against the Ravens, and they were a mightily struggling road team last year. So those things play into that equation as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely, J-Rock. That's a great stat of the Ravens last year on the road. One key matchup to watch that has to do with flustering Flacco is I like the Paul Kruger versus Rick Wagner, the tackle for the Ravens. That's going to be a matchup to watch. I think Kruger's having a great year. He had a sack taken away from him in the middle of the week and after week 1, so he only has 2 sacks. But with that huge one on Breeze last week, I like Kruger versus Rick Wagner on that edge, and that's a key matchup to watch as far as flustering Flacco. Getting into Dawg Bone number 3, J-Rock, I never thought I would think this, but I was coming up with these Dawg Bones this week, and I'll tell you what, Dawg Bone number 3 is Lockdown Steve Smith Sr. Smith has found a comfy new home in Baltimore, and he has been targeted second in the NFL 25 times, 25 targets in 2 games. That's huge. The veteran mouthy receiver is the missing Anquan Bolden type player that they didn't have last year, and Flacco loves him. We talked about it'll be interesting to see if Smith is guarded by Hayden, Buster Screen, or Justin Gilbert, or a combination of the 3. At 35 years old, Smith has been a beast for the Ravens this year. He's got 13 catches, 189 yards. He's got 1 touchdown. That came on an 80-yard broken play that Flacco created. So it was an 80-yard touchdown for a 35-year-old. The guy signed an $11.5 million deal with Baltimore in the offseason. And the reason that he is so important to the Ravens offense is because out of those 189 yards, J-Rock, 117 of them have come on 3rd down. So that is Flacco's man. At this stage in his career, Smith is a chains mover. He's an underneath guy. He's not a speedster like he once was. To limit Smith's production this week, I think the Browns should sort of shadow him. They're going to run their man coverage, and I think if you had somebody shadowing underneath to stop him on 3rd downs. But Dawg Bone number 3, believe it or not, is Lockdown Steve Smith Jr. or Sr. I don't care who it is. If it's Hayden, fine. If it's Gilbert, fine. If it's Buster Screen, fine. Just find a way to take him out of the equation and not let him produce, because he has been big for the Ravens this year.
Absolutely. I mean, Flacco's quarterback rating when throwing towards Steve Smith, it's like 91 or something like that. He's definitely that's been a good target for him early on, and that's the kind of guy that people, and I don't know why, but sometimes people, though, I don't know, maybe they hear it said on the radio or somebody goes, hey, well, Steve Smith's old, and they just, so in their head they go, oh, Steve Smith's old.